Hey everyone, and welcome to Workbook number 2 Ukulele Tutorial videos. If you missed the videos for Workbook number 1, I highly recommend going back and checking those out. Otherwise, this will be a little bit like jumping into the middle of a show and not fully knowing what's going on. But if you've already gone through those, or you know that info and want to skip ahead, then we will be continuing on with new chords, new songs, new information to read in charts, and more looking behind the curtain as to what actually makes a chord and how progressions work together. And of course, information and background on the music we'll be playing. But enough talk. Let's get to what you came here for, the next chord. And for that, I present to you the D major chord. From here on out, the chord shapes usually won't be based on previous shapes that we've made, but the stickers can still be useful landmarks. So here's how you do this chord. Start with your first finger on the red sticker, then middle finger on the green sticker right above it, and then your ring finger on the stickerless fret above that. Your A string should stay open. So what we basically have here is pressing down all of the strings on the second fret, except for the A string. And some of you might be thinking, hey, I've got an easy way to do that. I'll just use my thumb. But ladies and gentlemen, this is a no-no. We don't play any chords using our thumb, no matter how tempting. It's a bad habit and will make playing more difficult later on. Admittedly, this is not the most comfortable chord to play, though it's not the most uncomfortable. I think that honor goes to the E major chord, but we're not going to bother with that now, so don't worry. This really isn't too bad once you get used to it with a little practice. You'll also notice something else special about this chord. It's the first time we've learned both the major and minor versions of a chord with the same root note. Okay, we learned E minor and E7 earlier, but E7 isn't exactly a major chord. It serves a slightly different purpose. So that means from now on, we may see this, or we may see this. And let's practice some of this. Make sure every note sounds clear, and the open A string isn't blocked. And strum this 8 times with me, quarter note pulse. Ready? 1, 2, 3, and 1. Very nice. And now for the next step, finding some other chords to go along with it. One thing to note is, just like with E7, D major is outside the key of C. We'll be addressing that pretty soon, but for now, we'll find some friends for D, just like we did for E7. And while E7 had only the one friend, D major is getting an entire crew. We're going to grab our C, G, and E minor chords. Let's give this a try with 4 slow strums per chord, quarter note pulse. Ready? 1, 2, 3, and. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Nice work, everyone. Remember, C and G were our 2 earliest chords, so we're putting them first. D is brand new, and E minor was one of our later chords, so we're sticking them near the back. As we loop this, remember that you can always jump back to C if you get lost. Let's try this progression again, 2 times through, but this time with our first challenge. 2 strums per chord instead of 4. As before, we're not going to speed up the beat, only the speed at which we change chords. Stay on the quarter note pulse and try with me. Ready? 1, 2, 3, and. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. That's good, but now let's add something else, a small dot underneath our notes on beats 2 and 4. This symbol is called a staccato marking, and it means play the note shorter. So let's try this. Play the progression, again 2 times through, but quickly stop the sound where there's a dot. Ready? 1, 2, 3, and. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. Okay, are you keeping up? I hope so, because we're about to add another new thing. But luckily, this has to do with that staccato marking. Near the end of the Workbook number 1 videos, we started working with variations in strumming, specifically alternating between down strums and up strums. But now we're going to add a third element, the chuck, or chunk, strum. This isn't too hard once you get the hang of it, but at first it may be a little tricky. As you come down on the strings, you want to spread your fingers out and immediately mute the strings with your palm. Even though we've spent all this time avoiding having dead strings, in this case that's actually the sound we're going for. A bunch of dead strings played together to produce a chuck sound. So if we combine this with our down-up strumming, we can get this effect. Down-up chuck. Try that with me 4 times. Down-up chuck, down-up chuck, down-up chuck, down-up chuck. And now let's add it to our new chord progression, so it sounds like this. Down-up chuck, down-up chuck, down-up chuck, down-up chuck. That's good, but the next thing we're going to do is change the rhythm slightly. We're going to turn the down-up strums into 2 dotted 8th 16th note patterns, which are similar to 8th notes, but read like this. Long, short, long, short. Our chuck strums will become the staccato quarter notes, and we'll read this whole thing like this. Long, short, stop. Long, short, stop. Finally, we put all of this together, chords, rhythms, and strumming, and we can give it a try. Play it twice through with me. Ready? 1, 2, 3, and down, chuck, 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 down, chuck. Nice work, everyone. And with this new set of tools and the new progression, let's attach it to a song. And for this, we are once again returning to the catalog of the first artist we looked at, Ms. Taylor Swift. However, this time we're going a little further back in time than 2014, 2 years earlier to 2012 in the release of Red. While 2014's 1989 was seen by critics and fans as a full embrace of pop music by Swift, Red was seen as the bridging point between her country music roots and her pop transition. Swift had been a country artist ever since moving to Nashville in 2004 at the age of 14, and her first 3 albums, while having varying degrees of crossover success, were still very much country albums. But she began to experiment more with pop forms and electronic music on Red, and it was during this time she started working with Swedish songwriter Max Martin, who had written hits for NSYNC, the Backstreet Boys, and Britney Spears, and would later work with Katy Perry, Maroon 5, and The Weeknd, among many others. In fact, if you've gone through the earlier videos, you're already familiar with another Swift and Martin collaboration. In fact, the song's so catchy, you might say it's hard to shake it off. Swift arranged a meeting with Martin and his friend Carl Johann Schuster, known professionally as Shellback, to discuss writing songs together. In a 2012 Good Morning America interview, Swift said that during that meeting, it was revealed that she was in the middle of a relationship she described as break up, get back together, break up, get back together, etc. Martin suggested that this might be an interesting thing to write a song about, and Swift almost immediately thought of a chorus. The basic outline of the song was written in minutes, and it ended up becoming the first single from the album, and rose to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, the first Taylor Swift song to do so. So let's add some ukulele to it. To give our part some variety, I'm going to do this. Use our down-up chuck part for the chorus, but use the quarter notes with staccato for everything else. I'll help you out by putting up the charts as our part changes. Alright everyone, wait 2 measures to get the tempo established, and then come in with the vocals. Ready?
I remember when we broke up, the first time saying this is it, I've had enough. Cause like we hadn't seen each other in a month, when you said you needed space. But then you come around again and say, baby, up, you call me, I love you. We called it off again last night, but this time I'm telling you, we are never, ever, ever getting back together. We are never, ever, ever getting back together. You go talk to your friends, talk to my friends, talk to me, but we are never, ever, ever getting back together. Like, ever. I'm really gonna miss you picking fights, and me falling for it, screaming that I'm right, and you would hide away and find your peace of mind with some indie record that's much cooler than mine. You called me up again tonight, but this time I'm telling you, we are never, ever, ever getting back together. We are never, ever, ever getting back together. You go talk to your friends, talk to my friends, talk to me, but we are never, ever, ever getting back together. I used to think that we were forever, ever, and I used to say, never say never.
So he calls me up and he's like, I still love you. I'm like, I mean, this is exhausting, you know? Like, we're never getting back together. Like, ever.
No, we are never, ever, ever getting back together. We are never, ever, ever getting back together. You go talk to your friends, talk to my friends, talk to me, but we are never, ever, ever, ever getting back together. Getting back together. We getting back together. Talk to your friends, talk to my friends, talk to me, talk to me. Are never, ever, ever, ever getting back together.
Good job, everyone. Practice and try that song as many times as you need or want to, and let's keep going. Starting with the C and G chords worked pretty well for our last progression, but you know what also might be helpful? Starting with the chord we just learned. Let's give that a try. Take our C, G, D, E minor progression and move that D to the front. So now it's a D, C, G, E minor progression. Let's play this 4 strums per chord. Ready? 1, 2, 3, and. Okay, no problem. So can we try 2 strums per chord? Let's do it, but loop it one time. Ready? 1, 2, 3, and. Again, no problem. But how about this? Let's make this chord progression a little more interesting by adding another measure to it, one that repeats the last bar. And let's try that now, again with 2 strums per measure. 1, 2, 3, and. That sounds kind of cool. A little different since it's a 3-measure progression, and we're used to mostly 2 and 4 measure progressions, but it still sounds kind of cool. So let's see if we can mess with it and make it sound cooler by utilizing our chuck strum. This will be pretty easy. We'll just add it to beats 2 and 4. We'll add staccato markings too, since the chucking automatically makes the note sound shorter. Let's give this a try 2 times through. Ready? 1, 2, 3, and. I think it does indeed make the progression sound a little more interesting. So let's keep it. And let's find a song to attach it to. But this progression is a little unusual, being only 3 measures long. Where am I going to find a song that will work with this? The normal genres we've covered so far just aren't going to work for us. We are going to need an alternative. We need alternative music. Though we've talked about grunge music, an offshoot of punk, heavy metal, and 1970s anthem rock that developed mostly in Seattle, there were still different bands from different cities that were developing different sounds. The new wave genre of the 1980s and tongue-in-cheek, irreverent ethos of much of that genre's lyrics was also undergoing its own evolution into something that felt different from what was considered mainstream rock on the radio, an alternative, if you will. And so the music got its name. Alternative music was a little hard to define, but could best be described as slightly odd, guitar-driven bands that didn't take themselves too seriously while still being concerned with social issues, and that the populace at large weren't listening to. But you and your friends were. From this movement, there was also a rise of independent bands, or indie bands. These were artists who were on small labels, or sometimes no label at all. Coupled with the rise in affordable home recording equipment, many decided to forego having major companies release their music and just released albums themselves. This do-it-yourself attitude, and the idea that your favorite band was flying under the radar of everybody else, had a certain charm, but couldn't last forever. Major record companies did start noticing these bands, as did a cable channel founded in 1981 that was devoted to playing music videos. MTV. Though the channel is much different now, the M in MTV did used to mean music, and throughout the normal day of playing music videos, there were several specialty shows. For instance, you had Yo MTV Raps for hip-hop fans, Headbangers Ball for fans of heavy metal, and alternative music fans found a home in 120 Minutes, which ended up being the show that debuted Nirvana's Smells Like Teen Spirit video. But it was also the place many people discovered a band from Stockton, California with a massive underground following, Pavement. Led by singer and guitarist Stephen Malkmus, Pavement initially lasted from 1989 to 1999, releasing 5 full-length albums and 10 shorter ones. They were hugely influential among other indie bands and fans of alternative rock, but Malkmus's often idiosyncratic approach to songwriting largely kept the band off of mainstream radio. However, their 1994 album, Crooked Rain, produced a single both their core fan base and casual mainstream listeners could agree on, Cut Your Hair. And as it happens, this song fits perfectly with our new chord progression. So, let's try playing along. Just like with We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together, the progression repeats for the entire song, but we won't vary our strumming techniques this time. Just down, chuck, the whole way through. If you get lost or need a break, remember that you can always jump back in on the D major chord. Wait for the intro to go through 2 rounds of the chord progression, in other words, 6 measures, and then start playing. Ready? Stop it.
Like a puzzle, hidden wearing muzzles, hesitate to die, look around, the second drummer drowned, this telephone is found. Music scene is crazy, bands start up each and every day. I saw another one just the other day, a special new band. I don't remember lying, I don't remember lying, I don't
Good work, everyone. Are you getting the hang of our new tools yet? Well, if you still need practice, don't worry. We've got some more songs that we're going to mess around with and more opportunities to use D major and the chuck strum. And we'll find those opportunities by leaving California and traveling elsewhere. First over to Germany, where an English singer was recording a trio of landmark albums, and then to Chicago, where a band found out you can't name yourself after a mass transit line. See you then, everyone.